This is Dr. David D. Shine kicking off this edition of Saving America with my Week in Review commentary as the Iranian regime proves why they must be eliminated, and there is more fallout about disgraced Congressman Swalwell. Hey, what else is going on? Stock market surges and oil drop below $100 a barrel. New York City would be a joke if millions of Americans were not the victims. America has lost 10 key scientists in 3 years. Let's take a closer look at these and other hot stories for week 17 of 2026. Stock market surges and oil drop below $100 a barrel. The slopstream media loves to tell anyone who is still listening that Trump's entry into Iran is driving the U.S. economy and even the world's into ruin. It is true that the stock market hates uncertainty. However, no matter what, all the cats involved in the market do not want to miss out on the next opportunity to make the green gold. Listen, folks, I'm not going to bore you so much with the numbers, but for the three major stock exchanges, the Dow, the NASDAQ, and the S&P, that are most often reported, most interested Americans have done well, and the Dow continues to set record highs. After 5 weeks of decline, the markets have now had 3 weeks of wins, recovering all the prior losses. Despite Iran playing games with the Strait of Hormuz, the oil markets are starting to stabilize and prices at the pump have dropped a little bit. I suspect that fear about massive shortages is subsiding, though the markets are still tracking the Middle East news closely. I consistently hear that aviation fuel is a critical situation. So while the current blockade of Iran's in and out is suffocating the regime's money source, it's not without some pain to the rest of the world. I know I sound like a war hawk, but time to finish the job in Iran. The regime has continuously proven that it cannot be trusted to negotiate in good faith, and nobody really knows who's running the show over there. On the plus side, the enemy of world civilization, the CCP, is being starved out due to its extreme dependence on Iranian oil. I love the exchange this week when Trump called out Z about a report that the CCP was supplying military equipment to Iran. Z claimed in a letter to Trump that he wasn't doing that, like a schoolboy caught playing hooky. I do want to express some caution, however. We keep being told that Iran's military abilities have been wiped out, but logic would say that's simply not true. Iran is a huge country with a rich history of military conquest. Although the country has been run by a bunch of crazy terrorists for the last half century, we have respected their ability to prolong the fight. I know many Iranians here in Houston. I know them to be good people and hard workers. Even if Iran has 500,000 brainwashed soldiers in the IRGC, there are still 89 million civilians that would appreciate the efforts of the American military. Substantial destruction has been done, but if they can still fire missiles and have not surrendered their nuclear stock, they are not destroyed enough. Time to finish the job. Remember my book, Bad Deal for America, and this is a book about the U.S. Congress. It's bipartisan. We feature 26 Republicans, 26 Democrats, and Democrat-leaning independents who present some very interesting quotations directly from them, and I think you'll enjoy it. It's available in paperback, electronic form, and even a wonderful audiobook version with professional actors, not just me. New York City would be a joke if millions of Americans were not the victims. Full disclosure, I do periodically go to New York City and the nearby suburbs due to family events. I am relieved every time that I return home with no bullet holes. I find it to be dirty, noisy, and expensive. Then I have to stay at a $400 a night third-rate hotel, which is not my idea of an affordable visit, along with the extreme cost for everything else. To add insult to injury, what has historically been the seat of American business has elected its first openly communist, anti-Semitic mayor. New York City has had bad mayors for the last 20 years, but this current clown sets new lows. During his campaign, he promised free buses and has already failed on that promise. He promised free groceries as well. That has morphed into proposing one discount grocery in each borough. Folks, even if this ludicrous promise is accomplished, that will serve a tiny part of the 8.5 million people still living there. The word discount hit a note with me as there are many grocery stores serving the people of New York City. How will they compete in the neighborhoods with these city stores? I heard that the current administration in New York City is planning to spend $30 million to create the first such discount grocery. With the city in debt up to its eyeballs, where is that money going to come from? In the meantime, the Commie-appointed cabinet is preventing the New York City cops from cooperating with ICE to get killers and rapists off the streets. The latest disgrace is an illegal who is accused of arson for setting fire to an apartment building where 4 died, including a 3-year-old child. A 3-year-old child, can you imagine? Somehow this scum was released on the streets rather than being held in jail or turned over to ICE. And it gets worse. The latest is the clown mayor wants to put in a special tax for second homes in New York City that are worth at least $5 million. First, not sure how one would know who has a second home. Second, for someone to do this, they must be very wealthy. And if it's a second home, making the situation even less welcoming, the wealthy person will bail out completely, depriving the city entirely of its tax base. In addition, people can buy second homes through corporations to hide their ownership of a second property. This is a typical commie, unrealistic idea. For just one example, a financial guy and philanthropist has donated hundreds of millions of dollars to various nonprofit organizations in New York City. He officially lives in Florida. Big surprise. However, his condo in New York City pays $800,000 in real estate taxes annually already, and pays a proration of his annual income to the state of New York. The humor to this is that such a residence is beyond the wallets of much of the world, not just New York City residents. Is this really costing some illegal a place to sleep? Come on. When will the people of New York wake up? America has lost 10 key scientists in 3 years. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. However, sometimes there's enough smoke that a story demands investigation. Not sure why this was not national news earlier, but there are reports that 10 nuclear, defense, or space scientists have died or gone missing in the last 3 years. The initial case in the string now being highlighted was the death of David Hicks, a NASA scientist in 2023. The weirdest one might be retired Air Force General William Neal McCaslin, who disappeared less than 2 months ago and was involved in UFO research. That's right, folks. And a rocket scientist, Monica Reza, who disappeared in June 2025 and apparently had some cooperation with McCaslin. Hey, let's make it 11 cases, as the death of Amy Eskridge, a researcher who died in 2022, has been added to the list by some. While I have no special information on this string of strange occurrences, I do note separate concerns expressed about Iranian and CCP so-called sleeper cells. With regard to Iran, Israel has nailed a number of their nuclear scientists. So, assassins from enemy countries may be trying to even the score without exposing their networks. Time to get on top of this concerning situation. I will share more on this as it develops. Perhaps we can round up a guest to talk about it. The Squalids continue to disgrace America. The Squalids are a group of members of Congress who were originally called the Squad. They were young and different. The slopstream media has given them more airtime, most of it's positive, than could ever be justified based on their wacky views and total lack of actual accomplishments. The latest headline involves anti-American Ilhan Omar. A report was that she and her husband were worth up to $30 million. Given early reports that her finances were modest, that disclosure caused a lot of suggestions that this wealth surge was gained through corruption and abuse of her office. Now she is walking back the more recent report and claims accounting errors. Her new report is only showing $18,000 to $98,000. What? Yeah, folks, I'm not buying this one. Nobody can make a change like this and say with a straight face that this was an accounting error. Pardon me while I laugh my butt off. Time for the IRS, the U.S. Congress, and any other agency with the authority to do a full investigation. Any civilian doing this would be indicted. I call for full legal prosecution if this turns out to be corruption. And I ask my fans to call their representatives in D.C. and encourage further investigation into this serious matter. Do not ever forget these people are supposed to work for us in D.C. Our votes do indeed matter. This rampant corruption is unacceptable. On the business front, Amazon offers over $11 billion for Globalstar. In full disclosure, I actually, just by happenstance, own a few shares in each company. I did not even know I had shares in the satellite company since the exchange listing is GSAT. My broker apparently came up with that one a few years ago. I'm not complaining as both companies' shares went up. My regular audience knows that I am a hardcore anti-merger acquisition advocate. If we keep going at the current rate, we will only have a few companies running the entire world. However, there is a bit of logic here as Elon Musk's SpaceX is dominant with Starlink systems. So, giving Globalstar the financial backing of Amazon to compete with Starlink, hey, that might make some sense. Globalstar presently provides some key communication services for some Apple products and has customers in the government and the civilian markets. The Atlantic magazine takes on the FBI director. I'm very happy with the work that FBI Director Kash Patel has been doing to get the FBI back on track as the premier law enforcement agency in the world. Sadly, it has fallen far from that position over the last decade and a half. On the flip side, I recall being introduced to the Atlantic magazine in my advanced high school English class as a leading literary magazine. That was many, many years ago. Since that time, the magazine seems to have fallen to the bottom. Going political does not seem to have helped this formerly respected magazine. The latest is that the Atlantic ran an article about Director Patel that has him seeing red. It alleges that he had absences and instances of erratic behavior and excessive drinking. And yet my own observation is that he's a workaholic who seems to be on the scene everywhere. So instead of sitting in his office, he is out in the field. Now, the article claims as many as 9 witnesses who supported what was written in the article. I have a big caution flag. Due to the obvious failures and perhaps corruption of the recent FBI operations, a good number of agents have either resigned or been fired. Losing a prestigious, high-paid job with great benefits is a serious kick in the pants. I would think it would not be hard to round up a handful of ex-agents who would say something to get even with the aggressive, reform-minded director. This, again, is just my commentary. Let's wait and see what happens. With Director Patel promising a defamation suit against the magazine, I suspect this will either get sorted out in court or settled out of court as so many cases like this end. In a legal note here, Patel mentioned actual malice. The situation is that as Patel is a public figure, the legal standard is not mere defamation, but defamation that is done with actual malice. What that means is knowingly publishing something that is known to be false to cause harm to the person. This is a very high standard, so it should be an interesting case. A little good news in the midst of so much violence. A school principal crowned prom king. Yep. In case you missed the initial story, an Oklahoma high school principal, Kirk Moore, saw a former student enter the school with 2 pistols and aim one at a student. Principal Moore charged at the shooter, whose initial shot misfired, but a second shot caught the principal's leg as he took down the shooter. The former student claimed to hate the principal and was trying to recreate Columbine's school shooting, which took 14 lives, sadly, about 25 years ago. Sometimes it just takes someone to take action and not simply stand by and watch. So I salute Principal Moore along with his grateful students. Zombie business back on the scene. Well, not quite a zombie. Bed Bath & Beyond went out of business 3 years ago. The intellectual property was bought by Overstock.com, which then changed its name to the acquired company. In the latest development, the company acquired Container Store for $150 million. This is about 100 stores these days. Here in Houston, there's a very high-profile Container Store near the famed Galleria. The plan is for the future to have both company banners on locations. I hope this plan goes better than the Saks acquisitions, which tracked the operation into bankruptcy court, and we've talked about that on previous episodes of Saving America. And in our Saving America special interest report, marriage may lower cancer risk. So with that headline, I had to check out this one. It's based on a major study from the University of Miami Miller School of Medicine Sylvester Comprehensive Cancer Center. The focus was on developing cancer by people who had never married. The stats are stunning. Men who never married were 70% more likely, and women who never married were incredible 85% more likely to develop certain forms of cancer. The general observation, if you buy any of this, is that we tend to live safer lifestyles when we're in relationships. In short, people who are married tend to smoke and drink less and get more regular checkups. The other note is that women in relationships tend to have babies earlier in life, and childbearing has a definitive impact on certain cancers for women. In a tragedy of the first order, 8 children aged 1 to 14 were killed in Shreveport, Louisiana in a so-called domestic case. 7 of the 8 children killed were children of the shooter. 2 more persons were wounded. The shooter hijacked a car and was pursued by police. He was killed in a shootout a short time later. This is yet more of the horrific violence that is destroying the fabric of our society. Somehow we have to calm things down. So let's all go out and consciously get along with our neighbors. Let's reduce the violence and discord in our wonderful country. And that's my week in review for Saving America for this week. If you enjoy the show, please like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube at Dr. Dave Saves America. I appreciate your support.